Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, for 11 long years, this Parliament has ignored the petitions and pleas of hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders to put an end to the worst forms of animal abuse, the sow crate and the battery hen cage. We've kept, as a Parliament, the Parliament has kept a stony silence about these issues which so many hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders care so passionately about. So it is something of a red letter day that we are here having a very serious debate about animal welfare and considering the first piece of legislation about animal welfare that this House has considered and indeed is about to pass in 11 years. So I congratulate Simon Bridges for initiating the legislation and the Minister of Agriculture for introducing it, for adding to the original bill by adding the new category of reckless ill treatment of animals, and for increasing the budget provision for animal welfare. And the Green Party is supporting this bill because largely of the new category of reckless ill treatment, which we hope will make it easier for MAFN, the SPCA, to take prosecutions, because really the main reason we've seen so few prosecutions for animal cruelty over the years is simply because it is so difficult. It was so difficult to prosecute animal cruelty under the existing legislation because you had to prove willful intent to commit cruelty towards animals in order to succeed. So if a farmer starved his cows to death, it was often difficult to prove there was intent to cause cruelty, intent to starve the cows to death. And the other reason was simply that there was such a lack of resources and staff to undertake prosecutions. Until now, only 5 full-time MAF inspectors overseeing the welfare of over 100 million animals in New Zealand. Little wonder then that between 2007 and 2009, these 5 inspectors took only 44 successful prosecutions for animal cruelty out of more than 14,000 complaints that were lodged to them. Only 3% of the cases that MAF investigated resulted in a conviction, and only 0.3% of the cases that the SPCA took. Now, the SPCA told us during our consideration of the bill that it was so cash-strapped and so short of resources that it wasn't able to undertake many prosecutions. Most of its inspectors, after all, are volunteers. 60% of them are part-time. And so it is extraordinary that what really has happened is that the government, successive governments, have abdicated their duties to enforce the Animal Welfare Act to a charity, the SPCA, which has to, have cake stalls and so forth to try to fund its prosecutions. And it is extraordinary that the SPCA is the only enforcement agency in New Zealand that has to fundraise and try to carry out, or try to raise its own money for carrying out, doing the work of government in taking out the prosecutions under the Act. So we hope that this new category will make it easier for them, and that having 10 inspectors instead of just 5 will make a difference. And we also hope that some of the new funding will go to the SPCA for the fantastic work it does. We're not optimistic, however, that simply increasing the length of sentences will reduce animal cruelty in New Zealand. There have, after all, only been 11 cases of people who were jailed for animal cruelty in the entire history of New Zealand. A decade ago, we introduced 3-year sentences for animal cruelty. No person has ever received a 3-year sentence, and I don't think that just increasing the sentences by itself will make any difference. But we hope that the new category and the new resources will make a difference. Now, the Minister, when he was introducing this bill, he said, as a result of this bill, we will see improved animal welfare in this country. And I think he ought to have added, and that's great, but he ought to have added for some animals, particularly for companion animals, for individual animals, because the truth is that this bill actually it's not just the bill, but this bill only applies to individual cases of animal cruelty and completely turns a blind eye, completely ignores all cases of institutional cruelty to animals that apply in the farming sector. Any farming sector that has a code of animal welfare in place is exempted from this legislation. So if someone carries out something that could be argued to be animal cruelty, if there's a code in place, it will not be deemed to be animal cruelty, and so this bill will not apply to it. So the 90 million hens that spend their lives in cages, they will not be touched or affected in any way by this bill. They will continue to live their lives inside cages where they're unable to move around or spread their wings, even able to turn around, where they're not able to express almost any forms of natural behaviour. The thousands and thousands of sows who are locked in cages for months on end, where they will not be able to turn around, will not be affected by this bill either. And it's interesting, Simon Bridges commented on the intelligence of many animals. In fact, sows and pigs generally are thought to be even more intelligent than dogs, to be highly intelligent. In fact, there's some research, they've even been able to use joysticks and play computer games with joysticks. So these animals, these highly intelligent animals, will nevertheless remain locked in their cages, experiencing what can only be deemed to be animal cruelty, but they will be untouched by this bill. We will pretend, this Parliament will pretend, that keeping a pig in a cage will not be animal cruelty, and they will not be prosecuted under this bill. It's interesting, if someone kept a dog in a cage for, say a week or maybe weeks, they could be prosecuted. They could be prosecuted under existing legislation, but certainly under this bill, they could be prosecuted. And the owner of a dog who kept it in a cage for a long period of time could end up arguably in jail under this bill. However, if the owner of a sow who kept a pig, a highly intelligent sow in a cage for months on end, they would not be affected by this bill. They would not be prosecuted, in that they would continue to be rewarded by our society and by this Parliament. So effectively what we have in New Zealand now is a double standard when it comes to animal cruelty. We have one standard for individual animals, particularly for companion animals, and a completely different standard for farm animals. And in fact, federated farmers came to our select committee and said this bill should not apply to any farm animal, any production animal. We should continue to turn a blind eye, and any farmer should really be able to continue to carry out any form of animal cruelty, to treat their animals in any way, no matter how cruel, according to federated farmers, because they are a production animal. We should have one standard for production animals, for farm animals, and one for the rest of them. And yes, my colleague is reminding me it's a bit like George Orwell's Animal Farm. The animals on our farms will get the cruel treatment, the Orwellian cruel treatment, if they are permitted to. No, fair enough, the member is pointing out, most farmers do not treat their animals cruelty. Most treat them extremely well. However, we cannot say the same. We cannot say the same for farms, for so-called farms, for so-called chicken farms, hen farms, or intensive pig farms in New Zealand, and also federated farmers argue that any farm animal, any farmer should not be prosecuted because they are a production animal. So they were arguing a double standard. Now the Minister said, we take animal welfare seriously. This bill shows that animal cruelty will not be tolerated in New Zealand. It is abhorrent to society. It will not be tolerated. Well, all I can say, Minister, they were fantastic words. Can this Parliament and the Minister now turn its attention to the institutionalised cruelty of animals in New Zealand? Already done. already underway. Well, we've been waiting for in fact, we've been waiting for 11 years to do something about sows, about the pig code, about the hens. The Minister